Somewhere, on the ancient plains of Africa, hundreds of thousands of years ago, a tiny cry broke the silence of the night. No blankets, no cradle, no warm hospital room. Just bare earth, flickering firelight, and a mother holding the most vulnerable creature the world had ever seen, a newborn human baby. That baby couldn't walk, couldn't run, couldn't even lift its own head. And yet, somehow, against overwhelming odds, that baby survived. Every single person alive today, every family, every civilization, every story ever told, traces back to moments exactly like this one. Fragile beginnings, wrapped in danger, uncertainty, and love. But here's the question we're exploring today. What was it actually like to raise the very first human babies? How did our ancestors keep something so helpless alive, in a world with no safety nets at all? The answer reveals something extraordinary about human nature itself, something that still shapes every single one of us today. Let's travel back to the very beginning of human childhood. Nohun Boshtian, the earliest human babies. We need to start with a strange biological puzzle. Human infants are born remarkably underdeveloped, far more helpless than the babies of almost any other species on Earth. A newborn horse can stand within the hour. A baby chimpanzee can grip its mother's fur almost immediately after birth. But a human newborn? It can't even support the weight of its own head. Why? The answer lies in the size of our brains. As early human ancestors evolved larger, more complex brains, evolution faced a serious problem. A fully developed human skull would simply be too large to safely pass through the birth canal. The solution was almost like a biological compromise. Human babies began to be born earlier, with brains still rapidly growing and developing, long after birth. This meant something remarkable and incredibly risky. Early human infants required years of intense, dedicated care, far longer than any other primate species before them. Now imagine bringing a baby like that into the ancient world. No safe nursery, no stable shelter, just open landscapes, filled with predators, unpredictable weather, and constant movement in search of food and water. Infant mortality among early humans was tragically high. Researchers estimate that in many prehistoric populations, a significant percentage of babies didn't survive their first few years of life. Every single successful birth, every child who survived to adulthood, represented an extraordinary triumph against overwhelming odds. So how did any baby survive at all? The answer wasn't luck. It was constant, coordinated effort. For the earliest human babies, survival depended almost entirely on constant physical closeness. Unlike many modern parenting practices today, early human mothers likely carried their infants almost constantly, using simple slings crafted from animal hide or woven plant fibers. This closeness wasn't just about convenience, it was survival. Constant body contact regulated the infant's temperature, protected against predators, and allowed for frequent breastfeeding, which was essential, since early human babies had no alternative food source for months after birth. This physical closeness likely also strengthened something deeper, the earliest emotional bond between parent and child, an attachment that research shows remains critically important for infant brain development, even in humans today. Here's something crucial to understand about the very first human babies. They weren't raised by a single mother alone. Anthropologists refer to this cooperative approach as alloparenting, meaning multiple individuals, not just biological parents, actively participated in raising a single child. Grandmothers, aunts, older siblings, and even unrelated group members often helped care for infants, allowing mothers brief periods of rest and dramatically increasing a baby's chances of survival. This is sometimes called the grandmother hypothesis. Older women, past their own reproductive years, may have played an absolutely critical role, helping gather food, care for infants, and pass down essential survival knowledge across generations. Without this wider circle of support, many researchers believe the earliest human babies simply wouldn't have survived in significant numbers. In other words, cooperation wasn't just helpful. It may have been the single deciding factor between extinction and the survival of our entire species. Survival wasn't the only challenge early human parents faced. Babies also needed to learn, and learn quickly. Unlike many animals that rely primarily on instinct, human infants are born with relatively few automatic survival skills. Almost everything, walking, communicating, using tools, understanding danger, had to be learned through observation and practice. Play became an essential tool for this development. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies show that early childhood, even prehistoric childhood, likely involved extensive play, mimicking adult behaviors like digging, gathering, throwing, and social interaction. Through play, infants and young children developed motor skills, problem-solving abilities, and social understanding, skills that would prove absolutely essential for survival later in life. Even seemingly simple behaviors, like an infant babbling or reaching for objects, were likely early steps toward language and tool use, two abilities that would eventually define our species entirely. Speaking of language, raising early human babies may have played a direct role in the origin of human speech itself. Some researchers believe motherese, the instinctive, sing-song way adults speak to infants, using simplified words, exaggerated tones, and repetitive sounds, may have existed even among our earliest ancestors. This gentle, exaggerated communication likely helped infants distinguish sounds, patterns, and eventually, meaning, potentially laying crucial groundwork for the development of complex human language. In this sense, every early human baby wasn't just being cared for. In a very real way, they may have been active participants in one of humanity's greatest evolutionary leaps, the birth of spoken language itself. It's important to acknowledge a painful truth. For every early human baby who survived, countless others tragically did not. Archaeological evidence, including infant burial sites, reveals the emotional weight ancient communities placed on the loss of a child. At several prehistoric burial sites, researchers have discovered infant remains carefully positioned, sometimes accompanied by small tools, shells, or symbolic decorations, clear evidence of grief, ritual, and remembrance. These findings tell us something profound. Even in a world defined by harsh survival, early humans didn't view their children as merely biological necessities. They loved them, they mourned them, they remembered them. This emotional depth, the grief of losing a child, may be one of humanity's oldest and most universal experiences. Every human being alive today exists because, somewhere along an unbroken chain stretching back hundreds of thousands of years, a helpless newborn infant survived hunger, survived predators, survived freezing nights and blistering days. Each success meant an entire community had worked together, sharing food, offering protection, teaching skills, and providing warmth and comfort. In many ways, the story of the very first human babies isn't just a story about survival. It's the origin story of cooperation, empathy, and love itself, the very same emotional bonds that still hold human families together today. So, what was it truly like raising the very first human babies? It wasn't easy, it wasn't safe, and it certainly wasn't something any single person could accomplish alone. It required an entire community working together, sharing resources, and offering constant protection and care to give each fragile newborn a genuine chance at survival. Every laugh, every lullaby, every gentle touch shared between an ancient parent and child echoes forward through countless generations, all the way to you, watching this video today. You are the living legacy of every single infant who survived against incredible odds, stretching back to the very dawn of humanity. If you enjoyed exploring this incredible piece of our shared human story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications, because we uncover more fascinating stories about our ancestors every single week. Let me know in the comments, what do you think was the hardest part of raising a baby in the ancient world? Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next story.